retake areas outside Khartoum.
Their son were killed in an artillery attack.
Hani Mahmoud reporting for us from Gaza City. Hani, thank you so much. The Sudanese army is intensifying its efforts to retake areas outside Khartoum. But there's been more fighting as the paramilitary rapid support forces threaten to retake the capital after being pushed out in recent days. Heavy fighting in the city of Durman has killed at least 15 people on Sunday. The nearly 2-year-long conflict has displaced millions more. While the governorate of Khartoum and the Sudanese Red Crescent have launched a campaign to clear the streets of the capital as people return to their homes. They've begun removing dead bodies and explosives from public areas. Mohammed Val reports.
Until now, there is no way to know how many dead bodies are still lying in the streets. The grisly task of finding and removing them is ongoing since the Sudanese army retook the city last month from the paramilitary rapid support forces.
The beginning was tough for our team members, but as the safety conditions got better, we began to expand our operations. We worked in Durman and Bahari, and now we are working in Khartoum.
A joint operation between the Sudanese Red Crescent, the governorate of Khartoum, and others has aims to make Khartoum an inhabitable city again.
Our strategy is to go into every area where peace and security have been restored, to start a special operation to sanitize the environment. We believe it's the number one requirement for the return of the population.
The governor of the state of Khartoum is personally overseeing the work. Volunteers have joined the effort. The priority is given to the collection of harmful material such as unexploded munition, sharp metals and debris. They're also clearing the vegetation that has encroached on the streets and public spaces.
The organizers of this campaign say they can't set a deadline for the cleaning of the entire city of Khartoum. They say the objective of this initial phase is to prepare a few streets and the governance zone for the commemoration of the second anniversary of the war on April 15.
Khartoum State Scouts are also here, raising the morale with collective chants and trying to spread a joyful atmosphere amid utter devastation.
Khartoum's governor has launched this campaign to clean the city as a first step towards its reconstruction. And soon, God willing, Khartoum will have a new face to show. You will see the difference even in the next 10 days.
Even though Khartoum is still sealed off as an unsafe zone with no functioning services, the pressure is mounting on authorities to speed up the process of rehabilitation. People say they can't wait to go back to their homes and businesses and resume their normal life again. Mohammed Val, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
We're now going to speak to Dalia Abdelmonaim, who's a Sudanese political commentator and analyst joining us from Cairo. Thanks for your time. You are in close contact with some of the volunteer groups who are organizing the cleanup efforts in Khartoum. What are they telling you about the challenges they're facing and how much they've been able to accomplish so far?
There's a lot of challenges that they are facing. Of course, like your report said, there's unexposed weaponry, there's the houses have been looted and damaged, but the effort is there and the will is there, and they've set up, according to every neighborhood in each area in Khartoum, they've set up like a WhatsApp group where, if you come from that area, you join that group and they give you updates on what's to be done. There's also individuals who are, for a small fee, are willing to go and check out your house for you, take videos, take pictures, and tell you in essence what's happening to your home. But the cleanup is going to be a long time, simply because Khartoum and Bahri, especially those two, had the worst of the destruction and the worst of the fighting in comparison to other areas in Sudan. And so it will take some time, and of course funding is a problem. Nothing is cheap, to make sure that an area is safe for people to move back into, especially now that people are making moves to return to Khartoum, to return to Sudan. The need is high for more money to be donated or money to be raised in order to allow the people the displaced people who want to come back. So It's a long process, and I'm proud that we're able to meet the April 15th deadline.
On that point you make of safety, the army doesn't fully control the capital yet. So, are people confident enough in returning to the capital at this point in time?
People are desperate to return home, and for various reasons, whether it's the fact that they can't afford to continue living where they are, or it's just they want that one semblance of hope that things will go back to somehow to normality. And so yes, Khartoum city is under the control of the army, but the state of Khartoum, there's still pockets of RSF. Fighting hasn't stopped. Just because Khartoum was recaptured doesn't mean the rest of the country is free or the rest of the country is safe. There's still fighting in the western region. There's fighting in the Nuba Mountains. There's fighting in the southern Jabalolia area of Khartoum. But people are so desperate that they want to go back that they will risk it. And this is what's happening. At the end of the day, it's a personal choice. You know, you can't tell people what to do or what not to do. And just like people took the option to leave, a lot of people are taking up the option of returning home now.
But I suppose now the hard work also begins on the army's behalf. I hear what you're saying about the local groups and the civil society groups on the ground, but when it comes to the army, surely they must be trying to sort of restore some of the basic services in the capital, Khartoum, right? Like water and electricity. What can you tell us about that?
I mean, I've gotten some reports that water has returned to areas and electricity is beginning to return. But don't forget, the looting that happened, it did not just involve personal belongings. It also involved cables, fiber optic cables, water pumps. So at one point, there was a list going around telling people, if you want to return, you need to get these basic items with you. Like electrical wires were pulled out and taken, copper wires. So what can the army do? I mean, they're more than happy to put up posters proclaiming their victory, but how much are they actually putting effort on the ground to help people to get back home? That I don't know, but it doesn't seem that, from what I'm reading and seeing, it's mostly these volunteer groups and these small entities that you contact directly so they can help you. But I don't see much work in regards to the army. I think they're more focused on the war front more than anything so far.
Okay, Dalia Abdelmun'im, Sudanese political commentator and analyst, speaking to us from Cairo. Dalia, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Police are scrutiny for their handling of one of the country's worst reported incidents of serial killing. So several of women's bodies were recovered from a disused quarry in the capital last year. A suspect was arrested but has since disappeared. Grieving relatives say they're being kept in the dark, and as Catherine Soy reports from Nairobi, activists are accusing police of intimidation.
Judith Akoth and her family say they had to bury half of her sister's body. She disappeared in June at the height of anti-government protests. Her remains were among dismembered parts found in a disused quarry in the Mukuru area of Nairobi. Of the 17 sacks retrieved from a landfill, 11 were women. Police arrested a suspect accused of being a serial killer who reportedly broke out of jail soon after.
Everyone was shocked by the news, but it happened. We have no choice but to accept. It's very painful. My sister was not a protester. We were told that the other half of her body might never be found. So what are we to do?
Dozens of young people were killed, disappeared, or abducted during the protests. Members of the police have been accused of involvement. There's no clear link between what happened in Mukuru and the protests, but according to several human rights organizations, what is clear is what appeared to be a deliberate attempt by police to cover up evidence. Human Rights Watch investigators accuse the government of doing little to solve the case, including threatening activists who have been following up on the progress.
If you look at the post-mortem reports, most of the bodies were they would sever them, they would cut in the middle around the waist area. And a number of them, you'll find that the actual cause of death was strangulation or blunt force trauma.
The government spokesman denies the allegations. He says investigations into the bodies found at Mukuru are ongoing and being treated as attacks targeting women.
They therefore cannot just make wide allegations about the protests and the killings, because why am I saying so? If you look at the report that we have as a government, this has been going on actually the whole of the year 2023. We were able to record 150 murders, that are of women. So you cannot say that it's only linked to a certain period in time.
Back in Mukuru, Judith Akoth is still trying to understand what happened to her sister-in-law. She says she and many other families still looking for their loved ones might never know. Catherine Soy, Al Jazeera, Nairobi.
Time for the sports news on the News Hour.
This was the moment to break Wayne Gretzky's long-standing record.
On the flank, cross ice, Ovechkin fires! Score! The chasing days are done!
The Washington.
That in all of professional sports, no position has changed more than goaltender in hockey. And that's not to take anything away from Wayne Gretzky, who scored a lot of goals. But if you were to go back and look at a reverse angle of Wayne Gretzky shooting the puck, and you see this little tiny goalie and all this net there, and then you go look at a reverse angle of Alex Ovechkin shooting a puck, and there's a 6'6" goalie with a lot of pads, and there's no net there, that will give you a great idea of how much harder it is to score goals now. So that's what makes this record so insane at a time where it's never been harder to score goals. The thing that really took me aback was, I want to say when he got like 10 goals away, I got home, and like usual after a game, I turn on ESPN SportsCenter to see what's going on in the NBA, what's going on around all sports. And the first thing they talked about was Alex Ovechkin scoring that night. And I was like, whoa, this isn't Canada. This is Washington, D.C. And they're leading with hockey. Right now in the landscape, I think you'd probably go NFL number one, probably NBA, MLB number two. And hockey's kind of a distant fourth in terms of popularity. It's still kind of a regional sport. It's more popular up north than it is down south. But this chase has really elevated the game. I think if you were to ask a football fan about Alex Ovechkin, they might not have known who he was last year, but they definitely know now because it's getting that sort of treatment.
Cape Town's Victoria and Alfred waterfront is a tourism hotspot, welcoming 25 million visitors every year. The place is also home to precious marine life. Dedicated staff work daily to protect the animals and to minimize human interference. Every morning I go to the seal platforms to check how many seals are present and check for any injured seals. I also check if there are any seals that have fishing line, rope or plastic entanglements. Biggest threat comes from plastics. Cases of seals, for example, getting entangled in box straps, ropes, nets and plastic bags are common.
You feel like the seals are kind of messengers from the oceans. They're bringing back this message of what's happening out there, so they're bringing it to us. So we're finding that a lot of seals are coming into our harbour space, hauling up, and they are all entangled in these loops of plastic. So this was one seal was entangled in, this is the size of his neck, and was entangled in this previous plastic bag. And unfortunately, a lot of these seals, so they're playful, they're curious by nature. If you've ever seen them swim with kelp, they play and they twirl and they're curious and it wraps around them. And they don't know that if they're playing with this loop in the ocean, that if it goes over their head, they can't get it off.
To further protect them from harm, the Cape Force SEALs have been provided with 2 platforms that they can easily access. The platforms are solely for use by the SEALs.
As the Congolese government and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels prepare to engage in direct talks in Doha, a mixture of hope and mistrust hangs over the city of Goma. The North Kivu capital has been under rebel control since January. This isn't the first time they've sat together claiming they'll reach an agreement, but they don't, and then they start fighting again. May God touch their hearts so that they can agree and we can find peace. Some residents, however, remain optimistic, hoping the negotiations will finally put an end to the violence that has plagued the region for years. I believe they'll find a solution, but I call on our Congolese government and those occupying Goma to come to an agreement. That's all. Because if not, the population could die of hunger. Others, scarred by years of conflict, express deep skepticism and fear the talks are just another false hope. Millions have been displaced by the fighting, and the humanitarian situation remains dire. Living in fear like this is not right. We barely sleep. The fear is overwhelming. Let the leaders go and talk, and may they reach an agreement so the war can end. The M23, which has long called for direct negotiations with Kinshasa, has always been seen by President Felix Tshisekedi as a proxy of Rwanda. Some analysts believe the Doha meeting marks a turning point in efforts to resolve the conflict. This is a major step forward. Since the start of the crisis, there's been deep distrust between the two sides. This time there's a willingness to engage in direct talks. I believe it offers a glimmer of hope, and unlike the Luanda and Nairobi processes, this round of talks has been discreet and confidential, which is promising. While the M23 recently withdrew from the town of Walikale, it remains active in Goma and Bukavu, 2 key cities in the eastern DRC. The road to peace is still long and fraught with obstacles, and the Doha talks are critical in determining the region's future and the fate of the millions affected by the conflict.
Africa Union touched down in the South Sudanese capital. The bloc is on a mission to resolve the political crisis that has brought the country to the brink of war once again. The government formed in the aftermath of South Sudan's last conflict says it's committed to peace. Tensions have soared since first Vice President Riek Machar, accused of instigating violence in the northern parts of the country, was arrested back in March. His opposition party's armed wing has been locked in clashes since January with South Sudan's People's Defense Forces, led by President Salva Kiir. The opposition are demanding Kiir order the release of their leader.
Lines of Sahel states, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, meeting with their Russian counterpart in Moscow earlier this month. The 3 countries in the military alliance, known by its French acronym AES, on Sunday said they'd recalled their respective ambassadors from Algeria. Amid escalating tensions between Bamako and Algiers, the group accused Algeria of downing a Malian armed forces surveillance drone about a week ago. Mali says the wreckage was located almost 10 kilometers south of their shared border, while Algeria says the armed drone had violated its airspace. Bamako also withdrew from a regional military group that includes fellow AES member Niger and said it will file a complaint with international bodies about the incident. All 3 have cut ties with former colonial power France and are instead building partnerships with Russia. Algeria once was a key mediator in Mali's conflict with Tuareg rebels, but the 2 have grown apart since the military junta came to power.
This camp in Juba was supposed to be a safe haven for tens of thousands who fled the war in South Sudan over a decade ago. But today people here are facing new threats as forces aligned with the 2 main parties to the peace agreement clash in cities across the country. The uptick in violence, coupled with rising political tensions, has pushed the UN to once again put boots on the ground at this camp. The United Nations mission in South Sudan now carries out round-the-clock patrols.
In light of the current security developments, we recognize through our engagements with the communities and the displaced persons that there are some concerns about their safety and their future. As United Nations Police, we have engaged through the communities, actively patrolling, being present in the areas, and in an aim to help them feel safer.
In 2020, the UN turned over displacement camps that it oversaw to the government, transforming them into conventional camps. That was after the inking of the revitalized peace agreement in 2018, which saw the security situation stabilize. As violence escalates, the deal now appears to be unraveling.
Mozambique.